Hello and welcome to another exciting edition of Jamaica Magazine. I am your host, Audrey Williams. As we continue our month-long journey celebrating our youth, we want to bring forth additional areas within this tent that we also need to focus on to keep trending for a sustainable future. What do you think about adoption? Parents, have you mastered the art of parenting? And what about the food we eat and give our children? Answers and other details on those topics will be given after the news. So, stay with us. We'll soon come back.
Do your part to prevent mosquito breeding. Mosquitoes will breed in any container that holds water.
Tightly cover water storage containers such as drums, barrels, buckets and tanks. If this cannot be done, pour cooking oil on the water surface. Punch holes in all tins, plastics and beverage boxes to prevent the collection of water before disposal. Cover all tires or fill with dirt to prevent water collection. Scrub all vases once per week to remove mosquito eggs. Use mosquito repellents to protect yourself from mosquito bites. Dispose of garbage properly by placing in plastic bags and securing properly to prevent water collection.
A message from the Ministry of Health and Wellness.
Good day, I'm Theodore Henry, and this is your JIS News for Friday, November 24, 2023. The central bank is taking several steps to maintain tight Jamaican dollar liquidity conditions and support relative stability in the foreign exchange market. Earlier this week, the Bank of Jamaica's Monetary Policy Committee announced the decision to hold the policy interest rate at 7%. The bank also took the operational decision to increase the spread between the policy rate and the standing liquidity facility to 300 basis points, up from 200 basis points. This is intended to allow more flexibility in the bank's open market operations and give money market interest rates more latitude to move.
Earlier, on the 6th of November this year, the bank also removed the absolute limits on the foreign currency net open positions applicable to authorized dealers. This could help to promote relative stability in the exchange rate. Going forward, the bank will continue to review the effectiveness of these limits and their impact on market conditions on a quarterly basis.
BOJ's Governor Richard Biles made the announcements as he addressed the bank's quarterly media briefing on Wednesday. He also addressed the country's inflation levels, indicating that while the BOJ had been experiencing significant success in controlling inflation, that was threatened by the recent fare increase to PPV transport operators, a projected slowdown in global growth, and fuel prices remaining elevated over the next 3 quarters. Mr. Biles therefore welcomed the Finance Minister's announcement this week of a temporary 2-step reduction in JUTC bus fares effective January 1 and April 1, 2024.
Inflation is now projected to generally remain within the target range, except for December 2023 and a few months in 2024. The announced fiscal measure will have a material impact on tempering the potential inflationary pressures of the PPV fare increases.
Last week, the Statistical Institute of Jamaica Statin reported that the country's annual headline inflation rate at October 2023 was 5.1%, while core inflation, which excludes food and fuel prices from the Consumer Price Index, was 5.7%. The overall economic outlook is positive, with the BOJ projecting that real GDP will grow by 1 to 3% for the 2023-2024 fiscal year and between 1 to 2% over the medium term. The government has secured financing to facilitate construction of the first of 6 science, technology, engineering, and mathematics STEM schools in the country. On Monday, the Finance Ministry and the World Bank signed a loan agreement worth $30 million for the Jamaica Education Project, JEP. It will allow for the first STEM secondary school to be built in St. Anne, accommodating 2,400 students.
We're very pleased to be commemorating this morning an arrangement with the World Bank whereby we will build our first science, technology, engineering, and mathematics dedicated high school in line with the Prime Minister's vision.
The project is also expected to reach 6,000 secondary school educators to improve their teaching skills and assist roughly 150,000 secondary students directly and indirectly. In addition, 100 secondary schools will use data gathered to tailor interventions on student retention, including keeping boys in school.
This ceremony is a public declaration of our commitment to transparency, accountability, and inclusivity. It is a moment for all Jamaicans to recognize that their government is firmly committed in its dedication to providing quality education for all.
Still on education, the ministry has now gazetted 142 schools across the country as part of measures to modernize the education sector. The Jamaica Gazette is the official state newspaper enshrined in law with responsibility to print and publish matters related to law, rules, regulations, orders, advertisements, and other information that is of national concern. During this week's post-cabinet press briefing, the Education Minister announced that most of the gazetted schools, 42, were in Region 4, while the next highest number, 36, was from Region 5. She said the gazetting supported efforts to develop the early childhood sector and guarantee that students have a smooth transition from infant to primary school.
These schools are transitioning from all-age or junior high or standalone primary schools to now be primary and infant schools. Of the 142 that were gazetted, 128 are now fully primary and infant schools.
Jamaica and the Republic of South Africa have signed a cooperation agreement to strengthen collaboration in several critical areas of sports. Minister of Sport Olivia Grange and South Africa's Deputy Minister of Sports, Arts and Culture, Nakawe Nonsida Mafu, signed the agreement during a ceremony at the Rock Hotel on Tuesday.
The program of cooperation will provide opportunities for the development of frameworks to explore data collection and mapping.
The agreement will also facilitate collaboration in tertiary research, joint conferences, and the supervision of postgraduate students. There will be collaboration amongst the respective sports federations for the use of facilities in both countries. Among the disciplines that will be targeted under the cooperation framework are athletics, football, rugby, netball, rowing, and cricket.
This is one program of cooperation that we've been waiting for, because we know that with working together with the government of Jamaica, there's a lot that South Africa can learn, particularly around the issue of school sport and university sport and grassroots sport.
And finally, the Health Ministry is moving forward with plans to introduce a new medical equipment management policy in the next financial year to address equipment maintenance issues affecting health service delivery. Permanent Secretary Dunstan Bryan gave an update during a recent meeting with service providers and suppliers of electromechanical systems and medical equipment.
The reality is there's a lot going to happen in health next year, and we are primed to do it because all of our steps are now ready to move us into that direction.
Core aspects of the policy will include the training of technical in-house staff, mandatory user manuals, maintenance agreements, and replacement parts. A computerized maintenance management system is being procured for use by all regional health authorities, and going forward, contracts will possess a performance monitoring framework. Portfolio Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton says the consultations with stakeholders are seeking to provide understanding of the expectations under the proposed maintenance policy.
So some of the offerings around a supplier to the system may have to be tweaked somewhat to ensure that it doesn't appear as if you're kind of creating relationships that may be considered conflicts of interest. I go no further than that. And that can always be done within the context of a conversation. Because remember, a lot of these contracts initially ask for interest, expression of interest, then it ends up with a proposal, then it goes into negotiation. What we're outlining here are the top level requirements and expectation.
Armed with feedback from the service providers, the ministry will host another discussion forum to further explore the details of the maintenance policy and to align expectations on both sides. And that's it for JIS News today. I'm Theodore Henry. Thanks for watching.
Are you passionate about shaping the future of governance in Jamaica? Do you want to be part of a historic move to define the roles, responsibilities, and standards of conduct for our parliamentarians? The Joint Select Committee of Parliament, considering job descriptions, codes of conduct, and performance standards for parliamentarians, is having a series of town hall meetings to get your insights on the roles, conduct, and expectations of your elected representatives. Join the virtual town hall on the Zoom platform on November 30, 2023 at 6 p.m. You will have the opportunity to share your opinions, engage with members of the committee, and make your voice heard. Visit www.japarliament.gov.jm for further details. Let's work together to build a stronger Jamaica.
Thank you for staying with us. Adopting a child is a unique process that benefits both parties involved. It gives someone the opportunity to become a parent, while another obtains a loving heart that they can eventually call their home. On that note, our upcoming feature will dispel some myths while shedding light on the advantages of embracing adoptive families.
Thank you for your interest in adoption in Jamaica. Please download the adoption guidelines below, which are intended to assist you with the completion of your application form. You are required to complete and enclose the following documents: application forms, child's medical forms, adult's medical forms, any other information relevant to your case, such as affidavits, birth certificates, death certificates, and court orders. That's the beginning of your adoption process. You're now on your way to becoming a child's legal guardian.
Adoption is a very special process. It's a very significant step that persons take in their lives, and it is very rewarding. And I would implore persons who are interested in adopting to go for it. And as I said before, go for it with an open mind. People misconceive adoption because the stigma that is attached to it, in that persons, I don't know, maybe it is a cultural thing, but persons don't willingly talk about adoption. It's mostly a secret, and you find that people go away with the wrong ideas, in that persons believe that maybe the process is too long, maybe they believe that we should not have such a rigorous process, but you have to understand it's a life commitment, and you want to ensure that a child being adopted is being placed in the best possible placement. Close adoptions are adoptions that are basically done in Jamaica now, in that no information is given to either the adopters about the biological parents, and the biological parents don't know about the adoptive parents. The process for adopting overseas is basically very similar to the process for Jamaica, whereby you are needed to fill out the form, get the necessary supporting documents, birth certs, marriage certs. However, overseas applicants need to ensure that they have home studies, because that is the way you're going to find out about the overseas person's background. So they would have to get the services of a home service provider, especially for those in the US, and that home service provider will give them a comprehensive information about their, including police checks and everything. So they need that. And then after that process, they will submit it to us, and it will go through the regular rigorous process of identifying the
the birth parents, doing the necessary interview, visiting the child, getting the child's opinion, and then all of that is summarized and placed in a report along with the case file to the adoption board for approval. Persons who are allowed to adopt children in Jamaica are single male, female, couples, persons over 25 years. If you are a relative, you have to be 18 years and over. The adoption board is a body established in the Act that has to give approval for all adoption applications before they can go to the court for finalization. The adoption board is the only agency that is authorized to approve adoption cases. So there's no other agency that has that authority.
Let adoption work for you. Visit the Child Protection and Family Services Agency website at childprotection.gov.jm or visit the agency at 48 Duke Street or any of the parish's offices island-wide to learn how you can start the process.
Parenting needs to be strengthened. Parents must take charge. We cannot have people becoming parents and you are weak. You cannot allow a gang leader to take your child. I only have these children when they come to me, when the parents send them to me. So, these are your children. How dare you give them over to gang members? You must, and the whole family, must be in charge of the children. Children are children, and they need to be nurtured. We must take control until we hand over to them. That is what needs to be done.
As the old proverb goes, bend the tree while it's young, because when it's old, it will break. This simply means that you should discipline your children when they're young, since it will be a more difficult lesson when they're older. So, parents, don't try parenting when it's too late. And if you need some parenting advice, our next features will help.
Can be very frustrating, and a lot of times people don't feel like they really have an answer to everything, and the truth is that that is the reality. But there are different things that people can try. We're not saying that any one thing works for everybody or that you'll even get the outcome that you want immediately. Especially when you're dealing with young children, you might have to try something several times before you see a particular result. So for example, if it is that you want a child to learn the difference between right and wrong, a lot of times in the past we use pain to teach that this is wrong, right? But we find that ultimately when you hit a child, what you're teaching them to do is when I don't like something, I should hit and I should lash out. What you want to try in a situation like that, you can try removing privileges. If there are things that the child might love to do, or even the age-old timeout, you know, where you say, listen, for this period, you have to sit by yourself, there's no communication, there's no talking, sit down and be still. Sometimes you have to physically just hold your child and help them to breathe through it, because you have some children where they have so much emotion and so much anger and they want to get it out, that it's really difficult for them to regulate it at such a young age. And so you have to physically hold them, put your hand on them, help them to breathe through it until they're calm. And with children, even if they don't understand necessarily the big concepts of right and wrong, they can sometimes understand tone, right? And tone is not the same thing as lashing out and using certain words and calling them different names. Tone is being firm and saying, I do not want you on this. So for example, if a child keeps going up on something, You might have to take them off it 10 times, right? And continue to reinforce with the same tone and consistency that you do not want them on this. And also for younger children, sometimes you have to be the one to remove whatever it is that you don't want them to interact with from the environment, right? Because they're so young and so impulsive, you can't necessarily leave it to them to understand I shouldn't touch this thing, right? So that's how we deal with the younger children. It's a little harder in some ways, and in other ways it's a little easier because they do understand the difference between right and wrong. It's clearer what are some of the things that they love, and you can remove those things. But one of the things that's really important with teenagers is really to take the time to make sure that they understand that their feelings and their opinions are valued. So in the moment, yes, I'm removing these things, but I'm also having a conversation with you about why you won't have access to these things for a particular period, right? We're explaining why this thing might be dangerous to you, whether or not you agree with it. I am the parent, right? This is where I am coming from. It really requires a conversation because ultimately what you want to teach them to do, is to reason and to think, right? You don't want to just be disciplining and you're not helping them to think through it and to use proper judgment and reasoning skills. And so those are some of the things that you can try.
If the child becomes stubborn, the child is more obstinate, and the child has a fixed mindset, if you will, that this is what he or she is going to continue to do, then you might need professional help. You might need to call the commission, or you might need to call a social worker or a guidance counselor to help for you, because sometimes parents don't have the language either to even explain why this behavior is wrong. And that causes friction. Once the friction starts, then we recommend that you get a third party involved because it could become worse.
Obey the school rules. The rules are there to ensure discipline. The rules are there to ensure that our children focus on their education. And so if the school says it's brown shoes, not black, we want you to make that investment on behalf of your child. If the school says a tie, please don't send your child without a tie. I know that there are a lot of pressures on you as parents, but we are continuing to ask you to make that investment in your child. We want our schools to be incident-free this school year, and we can only do that with the cooperation of our parents, our teachers, the staff, everyone in the community.
Do you know what's in your food? One approach to finding out is to look at the nutrition facts labeled on the products you buy.
Part of maintaining good health is knowing our nutritional requirements and what is in the foods we consume. When we know, we are able to make better choices about what we eat and empowered to avoid non-communicable diseases (NCDs) such as diabetes, hypertension, cancers, and cardiovascular diseases like stroke and heart disease. In recognition of this, the government encourages consumers to look carefully on the ingredients and nutrition facts labels on foods.
NCDs is a national crisis, and what and how we eat is a contributory factor to developing or worsening. Our message, healthy eating, active living, read it before you eat it, places emphasis on educating and empowering people about the choices made for food consumption. In keeping with our vision for a healthy Jamaica, our goal is to equip Jamaicans to read food labels in order to make healthier food choices.
The fact that more than 70% of deaths in Jamaica are linked to NCD conditions, which are increasing, is enough reason for all of us to eat healthy foods, exercise regularly, and get adequate rest. Like sweet music to the soul, the healthy living message must resonate, and the Ministry of Health is chiming through the airwaves with its public awareness campaign.
Vitamins, minerals, and vitamin 2, 20% and more that good for you. You feel so me, check the nutrition facts. You feel so me, check the nutrition facts. You feel so me, check the nutrition facts. Less sugar, less salt intake, and less fat.
It is our collective responsibility to take stock of the health impact of excesses in sugars, salts, and fats, and take steps to reduce consumption.
The Ministry of Health and Wellness, through the Nutrition Facts Panel media campaign, is fast-tracking its response to the scourge of non-communicable diseases (NCD) by getting more Jamaicans to zoom in on what's in their food. The campaign is a collaborative effort of the Ministry of Health, the Heart Foundation of Jamaica, National Health Fund, and the Jamaica Association of Professionals in Nutrition and Dietetics.
I think this is a great start, and it supports the other things that we're doing, like school nutrition policy, the physical activity program, the elimination of trans fats, and so on. We have to see it all related and linked and make the push to get it working.
Preliminary findings of a recent baseline evaluation survey for Nutrition Facts Panel Education campaign show that while 70% of Jamaicans have a general awareness of Nutrition Facts Panel and 69% express a positive attitude towards them, only 30% are able to accurately interpret and apply the information on them. Ingredients on food labels are listed from the greatest to the least amount of nutrients. Pay attention to things like fats, sodium, and sugar, of which you are to consume a percentage daily value of 5% or less. Keep these in mind as well. The general daily limit of added sugars is 6 teaspoons or 24 grams for women and children, while for men it's 9 teaspoons or 36 grams. Your fat intake should be 6 teaspoons or 30 grams, including 13 grams for saturated fat. The general daily limit for sodium is less than 1 teaspoon or 20 grams. It's also recommended that we reduce consumption of foods that have a percentage daily value greater than 20%. Choose foods that are high in dietary fiber, minerals such as iron, calcium, magnesium, and potassium, and vitamins. Go for products with percentage daily values greater than 20% for these nutrients.
It is important that Jamaicans learn to read and interpret the Nutrition Facts Panel with its information on serving sizes, calories, nutrients, and percent daily value for the individual intake. This will empower people to choose foods that allow them to maintain energy and the appropriate nutrient requirements, particularly sugars, salts, and fats.
So, next time you go shopping, remember to read it before you eat it. And don't just read it, do so and make the best nutrition choice for your good health.
We've reached the end of our program. Get a recap of everything you saw here and more on our website, jis.gov.jm. I'm Audrey Williams. Take care.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.